So we're very excited to see all of this information about our incoming students, and just in general, you are an ambitious and accomplished group with an average GPA of 3.5 coming in. We have 8 first-generation college students and 14 first-generation graduate school students joining us. And you bring a tremendous variety of academic and personal experiences into this. There are 44 different undergraduate institutions represented among the applicants to the program and 30 unique undergraduate majors within that. You're also a very diverse crowd. So 59% of our applicants were international, with 41% being US citizens and permanent residents. There are 16 different countries represented among the group. 80% of you are women, 20% identifies men. We have an average applicant age of 24 years old, but a wonderful spread in the cohort between the oldest and youngest members of our incoming group. So it is wonderful to see all of these experiences that will be joining us as we get forward, start moving forward this year. I'm very excited to have 4 students with us this morning, and it is morning here, so we're particularly grateful that they are up and have had coffee and are joining us. We have 3 of our second-year students, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in much more depth, but just very briefly: Elena Johansson, Elsie Bergen, and Demope Fawale are here. They have all successfully defended their master's thesis in the last week. So we will take a moment and we will clap and snap and be excited for that accomplishment. I am also delighted that we have a first-year student here, Elsie Bergen, who will be able to answer questions and be a little bit perhaps closer to where you are all in this process. So I encourage you all to think about what questions you might want to ask the group. And then I'm going to just quickly ask them to each go around and introduce themselves, and maybe we can start with you, Elena.
Yes, hello everyone. As Lisa mentioned, my name is Elena Johansson. I'm a second-year student. I just came from my undergrad into my master's. So for all of you who are coming from their undergrad, I completely know where you're at. My thesis research was on COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy in young adults in the United States. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with all of you. I'm really also interested in water and sanitation and hygiene among, as well as women empowerment and how those two things intersect. So I'm really excited to talk with you all today.
Thank you, Elena. And also let us know sort of what you were doing before you came to Duke, and maybe why Duke, as we start to think about this. So Stephanie.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Lisa. I'm Stephanie. I'm also a second-year student in the master's program, and my thesis was on the barriers and enablers to Peru's pandemic response and looking at policy implications for the country, Latin America, and globally. So within global health, I'm really interested in health policy and governance work. That's where I want to end up, and where I hope to kind of start out coming out of the program in May. And before coming to Duke, I actually took a gap year after my undergraduate degree. So I was interning with a nonprofit called Global Ties, which does a lot of citizen diplomacy work through the Department of State. So happy to answer any questions about kind of policy, if that's what you're specifically interested in, or anything else about the program. And then I chose Duke for a lot of reasons. I think this program, out of all the programs I applied to, really kind of fit as a perfect fit for everything I was looking for. But one of the biggest things was the connection that Duke has both in the States, but then abroad, as someone who wanted to do international health, knowing that the faculty here are some of the leaders in this field, and they're so happy to connect you with people everywhere around the world. So that was really the leading push for me. And like I said, happy to answer any questions any of you have.
Thank you, Stephanie. Demope?
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name is Jampa Fowley, and I'm a dental surgeon and public health practitioner from Nigeria. Before coming to Duke, I worked with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. And while here, my thesis work has been to build a mathematical model that forecasts health and economic benefits of mental health adherence interventions that improve health outcomes amongst young people living with HIV particularly in Tanzania. What else can I add to that? But yeah, I look forward to entertaining your questions, to finding out, what you guys would like to, know more about. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Elsie.
Thank you, Lisa. My name is Elsie Birgen. I am from Kenya. My basic training is in nursing, and before I came to Duke, I briefly worked as a clinical nurse, but then I dived into global health research. And why I chose Duke is because it really, the global health program really connected with what I was doing. And it's really made me learn so much for this first year. I'm in first year, but I can say that I'm a changed person. And it's really made me realize that I took the right turn to what I really needed as a young researcher. Okay, my research this summer is I will be doing it in Kenya, in Western Kenya. So it's about a family therapy intervention that. So I'm trying to understand the connection between the prevention and the treatment component of the intervention. So my main focus actually is in mental health. I'd like to welcome you all. Duke is great. And I think I'm ready to answer any questions that you guys have, because I think I'm near to you, as Lisa said, in being in the first year. So I know what you feel even more. Second years might have forgotten a little bit, but for me, I'm actually your closer person. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you, Elsie. That's wonderful. And I will introduce myself once more. I know I've had an opportunity to talk with some of you, but for those who I have not yet met, my name is Lisa McKean, and I am the Assistant Director for Graduate Admissions and Experiential Learning here at the Institute. And what that means is that my role here is not only to be a point of connection for all of you as you are navigating this admissions process with us, but that I get to work with all of these wonderful students as they are putting together and beginning their planning for their summer experiences, communicate with them while they're in the field, and then really celebrate with them as they move through their second years and their defenses. It is a wonderful role that I get to have, and I am grateful to be here. I want to make sure that we spend this time with you, having the opportunity for you to hear from these folks. So I'm going to stay very quiet during this session, but while you are thinking about questions that you want to ask, and you can type them into the chat, you can also unmute and ask when we get there. Maybe I'll start us off with a first question, and I'll return to Elena just so that Elena maybe can give us a little bit more of the backstory before she came, and then launch us with a first response to what is the student community like here at DGHI?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I think before coming, I came from a really strong community in my undergrad. So I think, and this is the first time I'm living outside of my hometown. So I think coming into North Carolina, I was very nervous about making friends and like having a supportive community. However, like actually arriving here from the first mixer that happened before even classes started throughout like the entire 2 years, like I found very, very close friends. In fact, Stephanie is one of those really, really close friends that I've made through this program. And like just finding people that will stick with you through thick and thin, like people you study with, but people who are just genuine friends and genuinely want to see you succeed and genuinely like are passionate about global health. And with that similar passion, I think making community was a lot of fun, and it was unique of a situation coming from my undergrad who like most people were like, global health, what? This I can actually be like, oh yeah, did you see that article? So cool. So yeah, so I think the community in Duke both is really strong, but it's also facilitated in a really good way with DGHI and like mixers that are going on. So there's opportunities for people who are more shy to like have multiple chances to interact with people.
Thanks, Elena. I invite our other panelists to jump in on the same question.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's been really great to be in a small cohort, I'd say. I think that was one of the biggest things that I was really looking for in a master's program, because I did the International Baccalaureate program in high school and really enjoyed being in a small group where you would take all of your core classes together, the similar structure that you have here at DJHI. And that really, like Elena said, facilitates you building those connections with your classmates during the first year. And then you naturally just form friendships. It kind of starts out, yes, with studying, but then afterwards you're like, let's hang out, let's grab a coffee. Let's just have like a movie night to take a break. And it's so nice to be able to go through the excitements and also like the stresses of being in graduate school with a great group of people who are there for you during the good and bad times. And it's been really great to be able to have friendships through this program that I know are going to last far beyond it. So it's really like your cohort is one of the best parts of the program, because you really see each other day in and day out, and you all really push each other forward through your classes, through your thesis, and through the whole kind of 2 years of your program. And that's really wonderful.
I'll chime in here. So yeah, to add to what Elena and Stephanie have said, definitely there is a very strong sense of community over here at DGHI amongst the student body. I'll add to that and say that I was particularly pleased and surprised by the range of professional experiences that that our cohorts came with. When I resumed DGHI, we had individuals with backgrounds in economics, engineering, computer science, policy specialists, and that was, it makes for a wide range of contributions to the work that we do in global health, and that was very pleasing. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, to add on what my other panelists have said is that, well, for me, I think your classmates and also the faculty are very, very, very supportive. During the first year, we have a lot to work on because this is where we do our coursework mostly. So it can be intense at some point, but the support that you really get from your cohort, your classmates, and the faculty is amazing. You might feel so stressed out sometimes, but you end up coming out even more stronger than you thought you would be. So I would actually, when you come in, I would encourage you to really work on that and exploit those opportunities that you find in here to interact, and it actually ends up coming up naturally, as Stephanie has said, and you don't really feel it. So for people who might feel like you're so shy and you can't be able to interact with people early before you are familiar with them, you will actually realize that it's just, you just end up being part of the community. DGHI is great.
Thank you all. I do want to open this up for questions from people who are attending. You can type them in the chat. You can unmute if you want, raise your hand. We'll keep an eye out that. So let me just take a pause to see if we have any questions immediately.
Yeah, hi, I'm Shruti. I'll just go. How did you guys navigate through your housing options? I'm an international student, so as an international student, how did you exactly land your housing? Was it through Facebook groups or through references?
Okay, so do we take the questions?
Yes,
Oh,
hop right in.
fantastic. Yeah, that's a very good question. So I'm in second year, and I believe during my time it was a little bit different. But essentially, there are many opportunities, or we have like the Duke list where you can find potential housemates to find housing with, and a range of websites from Rentable to Facebook, that you can search for housing. But now I believe the graduate school has made availability for student housing here at Duke, right? I don't stay there, but I don't know if Elsie could you chime in on that?
Oh yeah, so the graduate school has provided housing. I live in Lancaster Commons, and being an international student, I really found it very helpful for me because it was less stressful, and I was when I came in, it was seamless, so I didn't really have to struggle on anything. And we have also transport from Lancaster to campus, so you don't really have to worry about that. So yeah, so I think that's a great thing that has been provided for graduate school students.
Stephanie or Elena, anything that you want to add about how you got connected to your housing?
Yeah, I can go. So I'm not an international student. I'm not too familiar with kind of like the specific processes, but for me, I really I knew that I wanted to be close to campus so that I could walk. So I just looked at different apartment buildings in the area, and Apartment List is a really good site too, or apartments.com. And then I just went about looking at different reviews of those different apartments, and kind of just went off of where I wanted to be kind of location wise, and picking the best fit, I think, for me in terms of that. And just knowing that I wanted somewhere where I could stay for the full 2 years, just to make the transition easier with summer. So that was my approach to it. But I also did look at Duke List, like Dom mentioned, that's a great site to see also if students are subleasing maybe for a year, if they're taking like a gap year, for example. You can also find roommates that way if you want a roommate. So those are kind of the best choices, but it's nice. There's a lot of options that are close to campus. And there are a lot of options downtown. I know a couple people who live downtown in Durham as well, because it's not too far from campus. So I would use those sources and maybe start with the Duke sites that have the housing, because that does make it a little easier, especially if you're looking for other roommates who are students.
A final option is just looking at Apple Realty. That's if you want a house, you can rent houses through Apple Realty as well. It's if you don't want an apartment, which is what I did.
So I saw a couple of other hands up. Thank you all. I saw a couple other hands up. Yugana?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I have a question. First, thank you for making out time to talk to us. I think it's nice. Thank you very much. Okay, so my question, because last week I was talking with a student representative from Duke, and he said that the schoolwork, the coursework was too much for him, and so he never had enough time for internships and other activities that is not related to school. So I just want to ask, is it possible for me, because I really want to engage in other activities like community outreaches, like internships, is it possible with regards to your experience in school? Okay, so is it possible for me to do all that while still studying, first? And second, if it's possible, how do I manage my time? How have you been able to manage your time? Thank you.
I'm happy to take this one first, if that's okay. So it's absolutely possible for you to do multiple involvements on campus. So I'm someone who has been working on 3 different research projects at some time, including my thesis, in addition to doing a project facilitator role with a nonprofit I work with. And that was all simultaneously while still taking classes and being able to manage that all well. I will say the first year is more coursework heavy just because of the way the structure of the 2-year programs is set up. So you do all of your core classes and some electives in your first year. So it's usually harder to be involved in more opportunities your first year just because of that structure. It's not impossible. I was still involved in different positions to get extra experience within global health during that year. But then your second year, you have a lot more flexibility. And most people end up having maybe 2 electives left, 2 to 3, depending on how you structure out your classes your first year. So then you have a lot more flexibility because essentially you're just focusing on your thesis and whatever classes you have left. So that's usually when more people will do internships or take on an extra position because there is that extra space in your schedule. But for time management, I think that's really unique for each individual. For me, I think it's really helpful to have like certain days for different positions that you're part of or different obligations you have, just to help kind of navigate your week by week schedule. And then, okay, this year or this day I'm dedicating this amount of time to this research work or to this classwork. And that really helps me a lot, as well as doing just kind of daily to-do lists and making sure you have like the schedule of what you need to have done. But again, that really just looks different for each person. But it's really not impossible to also balance like other research or an internship with your coursework. And most students do end up doing at least one other involvement on campus during their time here.
Exactly. I second everything Stephanie says. In addition, your first year, you'll match with your research mentor as their research assistant. So a lot of that helps guide you through your planning your thesis research. But for me, a lot of the research assistant work that I actually did was in community, and it was creating this website for vaccine hesitancy. So there are opportunities that are still related to the work that you do, and double up in a way with opportunities that are provided for you already.
Let me jump in right here. Yeah, so like Stephanie and Lena said, there are many ways to go about it. I think, if I'm correct, there is also a dedicated internship track, right? So individuals who wish to have an internship can go that route. So it's a different track from the primary research focus track. But then, depending on how you manage your time, you can actually sort of balance both. I'll also add to the fact that in your second year, you have the opportunity to shift your course load to, the first or the second semester. So you could structure it in a way that you create some time to get that done. And then there are windows in the calendar, right? The academic calendar that you can try to, fit in an internship. There's some breaks between the first semester and the second semester, so you could always figure that out. Yeah, so it's very possible to answer your question. Yeah.
I can also add on that. Yeah, I think it can be so intense during the first year, but we have been able to balance things. Working as a research assistant with a matched mentor, you will really, it's more or less the same as being doing an internship, because you end up learning so many skills that you are really going to apply during your fieldwork. You get to learn a lot to do with research and everything that you would really help you to work on your project, do your fieldwork project during summer. So I think how you manage your time is actually is individualized, but it is possible. It is possible. And you can also find time, sometimes at least, to relax. Even if it's so hard, you can take some time, at least a day or a half a day, or even an evening to just unwind and get yourself rejuvenated again and be ready again for the busy days. So I don't think really you need to worry about that. Everything will fall into place. So yeah.
Thank you all so much. I do want to underline the fact that in the first year, there's a lot of coursework and it's busy and you're also adapting to a new place. And in the second year, you have a tremendous amount of flexibility. And I thank all of you for sharing a little bit of the different ways you've navigated that. I see a couple of other hands up, maybe Brianna.
Hi, thank you guys so much for taking the time to spend your morning speaking with us. So I guess I have two questions. So the first one is, in your experience as students, does it feel like a more collaborative or competitive environment? And then I guess the second question that I have is a little different, but is there any advice, or were there any ways that you guys navigated outside of the scholarships and kind of initial funding that you guys, maybe outside scholarships that you applied for or other programs that you went through to help kind of cover the cost of tuition?
I can start. I feel like I've talked a lot, but I can answer your first question and a little bit of your second question. I would say the vibe of our cohort, at least for the second year cohort, is very much collaborative. Like you walk into class the first day and everyone is like jovial and kind and like wants to see each other succeed. Like it's not like, oh, only one person get the highest. It's very much like, no, why can't we all do well? So I very much sense the collaborative aspects of our cohort, and it's something we actually talk about in our cohort, how glad we are that we are so collaborative, from a group chat that we have that like are offering up, hey, come to my thesis defense, to just other opportunities in that group chat, to just like the fact that you can truly talk and get and ask for help from anyone and they'd be willing to like be like, oh yeah, sure, let me take this time to talk you through like this biostats like confusing topic or something. So I would definitely say collaborative. In regards to funding, I know some people have gotten and have applied and gotten fellowships to help with funding. I personally have not, but I know that a couple of people in our cohort have successfully gotten those and seem better off for it because it's multifaceted, the fellowships, like they're having additional learning as well as the funding for DGHI. So yeah, that's a shorter answer on the funding. I'm sure one of my other panelists can go more into the funding question.
Thanks, and I can go next. Yeah, definitely second Elena's point about us being really collaborative, which is really nice. And that goes back to what Dom was mentioning. Like everyone comes in with different academic backgrounds and experiences. So it's really fun and eye-opening when you get to collaborate like on coursework and projects to really get other people's perspectives. But everyone really strives to just lift each other up throughout the program. And that was really nice for me coming from undergrad because I was pre-med and STEM at University of Michigan, and it was like the most competitive environment. Like no one wanted anyone else to succeed. And that's absolutely not the case here, which is really nice. Like we all want each other to do well in our courses. We all want each other to place well for our thesis and get jobs when we graduate. So it's just a really nice environment where your cohort really is like one of your biggest support networks over these next 2 years. And same, I can't really speak to the extra funding, but I, like Elena, I know a lot of people apply through first fellowships through Duke. Like Duke has specific fellowships too. And it is nice. They have you do like certain coursework, or there's like Elena said, an academic portion, which is really nice because then you get to explore something in parallel to your master's degree. And that really just builds you up as like a candidate.
Okay, I could go next. So yeah, about the funding, yeah, I can't really contribute to that. But like Elena and Stephanie mentioned, individuals have received support from outside sources. About the competitive or collaborative nature of the program, I would say that when we resumed the program, we quickly learned that pretty much everyone in the, all your colleagues are among the best of the best, you as well. But then you're also pursuing different interests, it doesn't, it's global health and there's so many niches and specialties, and it just ends up being, oh, how do we best support each other to achieve our goals? We end up having slightly different goals. So it's very collaborative, to answer your question. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, and I want to add more on the collaborative nature of the program. Well, for us in the first year, we actually understood that global health is a multidisciplinary field, and everyone comes in with different strengths and different perspective on how they view things. So we really collaborate and learn from each other, and it has really helped us to be where we are today in like completing our second semester. So I would say it is really collaborative. Yeah.
Thanks all. Let me jump in just very briefly, and because I think one of the challenges in the finance question is that everybody is in a very different place as they move through this process. And so we encourage everybody to reach out to certainly do the Graduate School Financial Aid Office, to reach out to my office with specific questions. There are a small handful of fellowships. If you are a US citizen, you have access to certain financial resources that international students may not have access to, and we're aware of that. So I encourage people to just reach out because it is such an individual conversation. So please feel free. I see a couple of other hands up, and I see a question in the chat. Paul, I know your hand has been up a couple of times. I want to give you a chance to actually ask your question.
Hi, Lisa. Again, thank you for the opportunity. It's really great to see everyone here. I have a couple of questions, but I think the most important question I wanted to ask was in lines with the research experience, the field research experience. I don't know, for those that did research experience in probably a foreign country, what was sort of your experience during the entire research program that you attended, and would you advise an incoming student to just go to observe studies, like, new, and they don't probably have much knowledge about the place, let's a whole different continent, or would you advise someone to go to a place where they're a bit familiar with the language and everything else? I don't know, you can advise on that. I would probably ask more questions as we go. Thank you.
I can hop in here. So for my thesis, I was focusing on Peru, but I actually did my field work half of my time in Lima, Peru, and then in Geneva, Switzerland, to do kind of a two-country component, which is kind of rare. It's usually your field work is just in one country, but that was the way my project was set up through the center that I worked with. And I absolutely loved my field work. It was like one of the best highlights of the program, like the best summer of my life, honestly. And it was just really amazing to have the opportunity to live and work abroad and experience a different culture in a different country and different perspectives for 10 weeks. And that was just, it adds a lot of experience and a new layer to the work that you do within global health, but also for your project specifically. And it's really great to be able to interact. So like for my project, I was doing interviews with different people who were involved in Peru's pandemic response. So it was really amazing to be able to connect with people who were doing global health work and policy work like I want to do, and get to hear their experiences during that time. And then to be able to come back to Durham after the field work and see all of that work come together is really phenomenal. And it's a highlight of the program. And like me personally, I would recommend that you try to go to a country or place you haven't been to and that you're not familiar with, because that really just enriches the experience for you, like the whole learning experience, and getting to, like I was saying, just really be ingrained in a new culture and way of life. It just really adds to the whole kind of fieldwork understanding and the positive aspects of it. It's a lot to like learn and take on, but then it also gives you a lot to kind of reflect and discuss coming back and looking back on your time in the program.
Okay. Thanks, Stephanie. That was a good response. I'll add to that and say that, firstly, to a certain degree, and I think it has been mentioned on this call already, the team or professors you match with also determines to a certain degree, where your fieldwork opportunities will happen. So in my case, when I was undergoing or going through the interviews, there were a range of options. to travel to different places in the world, but my interest ultimately dictated, where I ended up. And for my fieldwork experience, I traveled to Tanzania. So I had never been to East Africa before. It was the first time, and like Stephanie's experience, it was pretty good. It was pretty much an amazing summer. I'll also mention that you are supported, in the endeavor. So my trip to Tanzania, I was expected in Tanzania, right? So it wasn't as if I was just going and nobody knows what's happening. So there is communication at both ends, in the US where we've left, and ultimately where you travel to. What else can I mention? Yeah, I think that that covers that. Yeah.
I can't answer this question. I did my research like online, so sorry, I can't answer this question.
I was going to ask Elena if you wanted to talk about being local. It's a wonderful question, and I think it's a complicated. There were many questions layered into what you asked, Paul. So thank you to the panelists for jumping in on that. I'm going to take just a minute before I go to the next to answer this question that is in the chat around the internship. I don't know if our panelists have seen this, but the research versus the internship track. And let me say 2 words, and then you all can talk about how you opted into your path if you would like. The internship path within the master's program is quite new. It's only in its third year, and it's quite small, but it is set up as an opportunity for students that are interested in moving directly into a more practice-focused applied experience. And so students in that pathway are placed in an internship with a global health organization that has at least a primary office here in the US. Most of them are either nearby in the triangle, the research triangle area here, or in Washington, DC. Students are usually working remotely in those internships, although we keep hoping that those businesses will go back into being in the office and students will have an opportunity to be placed there more directly. I want to highlight that the students that are in the research track and the students that are in the internship track have the same level of summer funding. So if you are in the internship track, it is not a paid internship that is different than the summer funding that you would receive. It is the same level of financial support, because I know that that is a big part of everybody's calculations and when they're thinking about cost to the program. And the selection into the pathway actually occurs very early in your first year. This match that you hear our panelists referring to is when we start opting into those 2 pathways, and information would be provided about the specific opportunities in each of those pathways very early in. We hope actually even before you arrive on campus, we'll have some preliminary information about those opportunities. So I'll stop there. If any of the panelists want to talk about this, you were all in the research pathway. So if you do not want to, I completely understand, but to think about how you might have looked at those opportunities would also be helpful.
I think I can just say, I think talking to my approach to picking both, because I was kind of on the fence at the start of the match process. But I think for me, I ended up wanting to do global health compared to like public health because I've wanted the experience of working in a different country and doing research with fieldwork, since I was someone who had a lot of US-based research experience coming into the program. But that being said, I think having the summer fieldwork is really unique. And for me, I kind of approached it as knowing that there's more time in the second year to do an internship if I wanted to. It would be more beneficial for like my career and development to be able to do the field work. And then if I decided when I came back, I could easily apply and do an internship, since most are still remote. And even if they're not, there's a lot of great opportunities in the Durham area to do one. That was my approach, was just wanting to get the most out of the program and most skill development. And knowing that while you can do an internship on your own, separate from the internship track, you can't then try to do like an international fieldwork experience on your own if you're not in the research track. So that was kind of my deciding approach to it.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I can go next. I'll say that I arrived at the program straight off the back of the pandemic response in Nigeria, working for the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. And at that point, I felt, okay, let's do some research now. So that was my approach to it.
Yeah, for me, I knew that there would probably be more opportunities after my master's to get an internship. So research seemed more attractive in that way. I also was less likely to go into research. So I wanted to skill build that in the program rather than getting an internship. That's like fully nonprofit, but now I'm looking at research positions. So it's hilarious how that does happen. So
Yeah, for me, I think my passion and my focus, mainly having worked in research field, really determined what I wanted to do, and that is why I chose to do the research pathway. So, yeah.
Thank you. Galia, am I pronouncing that correctly? Galia?
Yeah, that's right.
I see your hand
Hi.
up.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. So I actually was wondering if you could please put us in touch with people or students who are doing the internship track, because it seems like the majority are doing the research track. I just wanted to ask them a couple of questions if that's possible. And my next question would be very close, similar to UAE's question. I was wondering, what is your typical day like for first and second year students? Like, are your classes usually in the morning, in the afternoon? What do you do outside of the classes? Yeah, thank you.
well, I feel like we all might have slightly different answers to this. For my memory of the first year, the class times were kind of spread out. So like you would have like a morning class on Monday and then an afternoon class on Tuesday. So it kind of depended. So if I had an afternoon class, I would sleep in the morning, like have a slower morning, and then like head to class a little bit early, do some studying, and then head home, like make dinner, hang out with friends. I know, especially the first semester, there's a lot of inability to go out on Thursdays and Fridays with friends. And then what's more in my mind now is obviously the second year where you maybe have a couple classes per week. I had one last semester or two last semester and one this semester. So for the days that I do have classes, I go to that class, and then afterwards maybe I'll work for a couple hours in my job and then work on my thesis for a couple hours and then go out and have hang out with friends, all the same. So it's less structured in the way that you don't have places to be, but it's more self-regulated. But I think it's different for each person on how you choose to manage your time, especially the second year, on what you want to fill your time with. But I would say I had an even balance both years on schoolwork, homework, and hanging out with friends and having balance.
Yeah, I can go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Elsie.
Okay, I think I can answer this. Being in the first year where it really has the heavy coursework. For the first semester, we had most of our classes late in the morning to the afternoons, and most of the courses, like the core courses, we are just in class as a group, and then we have an elective different, from each, everyone has a different elective, which could be on a specified time. And then so for the first semester, we really spend most of the time trying to do homework and everything. And I think the first semester really could be getting you to adjust and understand how things are, and adjusting into the new place again. And so I think for me, I would say the first semester really tries to make you to fit in and understand on how you are going to manage your time and the coursework as well, and doing new things, making new friends. And so that's how the first semester was for me. And for this semester, we have most of our classes in the morning, and we still have the whole group doing the core courses together. And then we have also the electives, so we get to meet other people doing different courses and meeting new friends. I think I've made new friends in different departments as well, who do the different courses that we do, the elective courses. So for this semester, I think I really find time maybe in the evenings to maybe hang out with friends and attend some activities in the evenings that are like on campus, and also mingle with friends. So the first semester seems to be a little bit like it has a lot for you to really fit in and get yourself moving. But now, like, the second semester is busy, but at least you are familiar with what is happening, and you can really find time to do other activities and mingle and make friends. And yeah.
Okay, thanks, Elsie. Yeah, I remember the first year, it can be quite a lot. But in the second year, it's a little lighter, right? So being a second year, I'll give you an idea of my week, right? So I have 1 or 2 classes in the morning. Most of my time is spent doing research, either my thesis work or other research projects that I'm on. In addition, you have the opportunity to be a teaching assistant. So I'm a teaching assistant in the second year. I support, the delivery of lectures, for the first years. In addition to that, you can pursue other endeavors. So, for example, I work in a group, that's the Duke African Professional Students and Graduates organization. We organize events for the community, things of that sort. So yeah, there are several things you could do. And I would say in the second year, you can explore way more opportunities. Yeah.
I think I can also add on that, maybe to make it more clearer. So for the first semester, you have 4 core courses, and then you gotta choose an elective. And then during the first weeks, it's like class, and then when you are matched with your mentor is when you start doing your research assistantship work. So you balance all of them, like you're in class and you're also a research assistant. And I think it's really worked. Sometimes it's just how you manage your time really determines how you are going to have extra time to maybe meet with people and relax at some point over the weekends. But it really depends on how you balance your time. So for this second semester, I have actually 6 courses for me, and so far I've managed to balance everything. As an international student, for the 6th one is an ACE English course. So you have to do that before the first year. And so so far, I would say so far so good, because I've been able to balance things. And yeah, I've been able also to do my research assistant work. So yeah, typically that's how things are.
Amazing. Thank you all. I will point out not everybody takes 6 classes in this the second semester of their first year, but it is a busy and exciting time for everybody. We are winding down the end of our time, and I want to just make sure that I get a chance to thank our panelists for being with us here and thank them for their insights. And I want to encourage you all to join us for the continuing conversation with a new group of students on the 29th. And obviously this recording will also be available on the admitted students page. But as we wind down, I want to ask our panelists to just each one of them to ask if they have any concluding thoughts that they would want to share for students that are trying to decide on a program. You all asked such wonderful questions. We didn't even get to talk about life in Durham. So are there things that each of our panelists think these are my concluding thoughts to share with you. And since I started at the beginning with Elena, this time I will start with Damope.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Concluding thoughts. I would say, especially to international students, that DGHI, the program here is to a certain degree suited to your needs. I think it's been mentioned in the chat that the program qualifies as STEM, which is very beneficial for us and the considerations we have going forward with our careers. And yeah, I believe should you choose to attend DGHI, you'll have a great time here.
Stephanie?
Thanks. Yeah, definitely second everything Dom said. And I think coming at Duke for your master's is a really great opportunity. The school itself has so many connections and so many great resources to really help you to branch out during your time here. And everyone comes in with their own kind of interest within global health, but through your different experiences at Duke and through DGHI, you really get to take on a lot of new opportunities and roles and insights within the field that maybe you didn't have coming into the program. And it just gets you even more excited about working in global health once you graduate and once you finish your 2 years. So it's been a really great experience. And again, having that tight-knit cohort really does make it less stressful and a lot more fun. So we hope you'll join us all next year.
Thanks, Stephanie. Elsie?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say the closing remark that choosing Duke Global Health is really the best thing that you can ever do. For me, I'm saying from my personal experience, it's been a great thing because it's met everything that I needed to pursue my career. And I would also say that everything is manageable in terms of like time and getting to dive in to do a lot. And even if you're an international student, you really get to fit in, and things might be confusing in the beginning, but you realize that as you continue, you get to learn a lot. So we hope to see you. And if anyone has a question, I am free to correspond with you and talk with you. So feel free, and you're really welcome.
Thank you so much, Elsie. Elena?
And then I guess I'm finishing it out. Yes. So I think a thread throughout all of this is just the learning that you will have at Duke in research, understanding, and internship, but overall in professional development and just personal development about how getting your master's is a step in professional development. And I think DGHI has prepared me personally to take those next steps professionally with research, and then also just generally with looking over my CV and helping find job opportunities. Duke has really helped me with those next steps professionally. So I think that's something that I wanted to specifically call out, that this is a great program for global health, and it's a great program just for professional development in general. So yeah, I'll see you all next year.
Thank you, Elena. I absolutely could not add anything to the wonderful words of wisdom from our panelists. For anybody who had a question that we didn't get to, please, the panelists have put their emails in the chat. I encourage you to reach out directly, also to reach out to my office. We are happy to continue this conversation and to look at the resources on the admitted students webpage that we've got up. That's not only links to recordings, but it also has resources around living in Durham and getting you connected to some of the additional campus resources. So it has been an absolute pleasure to have time with you. And I will echo what everybody has said and say, we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you so much.